is 2:30 in the morning. I am headed to the airport, and I'm exhausted. I spent all day, I was behind this week, and stuff came up, and spent yesterday loading and packing and trying to relax a little bit. Had trouble sleeping, but hopefully get some sleep on the plane. So San Antonio, here we come.
Well, just got into San Antonio. Look who's picking me up.
How you doing, John?
Doing well, man. I should have taken a picture of your license plate. You got a new one.
Oh, yeah.
EC Tuner. We'll take a picture when we get back to his place.
All right, let's go.
All right, let's go. All right, so Eric just picked me up at the airport, and we're at a place called Cooper's. Apparently the best Texas barbecue he knows. This is what we get to choose from. So we're gonna go have ourselves some good barbecue. All right, nothing like lunch with a good friend. So what do we got here, Eric? We got some brisket.
Yeah, brisket,
Sausage
and chicken.
Beans. Oh yeah.
Coleslaw.
Let's see what that chicken looks like. That chicken looks good. Oh man,
Juicy.
that is some juicy chicken, and we got some coleslaw. So
Try that brisket.
time to eat. Well, we're out here getting ready for the TSRA, doing a little practice, having some fun. Absolutely beautiful weather. It's about 60 degrees, a little overcast. Eric's up having some fun on his target, letting my barrel cool. But it's a good chance, you know, for me to see how the gun's shooting in this environment compared to back home. It's definitely more humid, it's hotter, you know, all kinds of differences. So it's been a really good experience getting it sighted in for Texas here.
No.
So these guys are out where I'm shooting right now. They just walk around you. We've left the Cortina compound. We are 115 miles from Houston. Eric, what are we gonna do?
We're gonna go win.
Hell yeah, we are. We got team match tomorrow. I know it's hard to tell, but I am super excited because Eric asked me to shoot with him on his team. They had somebody that couldn't make it, so I'm filling in. It's a huge honor, dream of mine. So this is gonna be awesome. And just gonna be great. I mean, we've got weather says it should be at least a challenging couple days, right?
Yep.
We got maybe some rain.
We got rain. Tomorrow's supposed to be dead calm, but Sunday's supposed to be very windy. Somewhere 20 to 30 mile an hour wind. So
Sprinkle some rain in.
Yep.
And then even Sunday should be a pretty good finish. I think we still end up with maybe 5 to 10 mile an hour winds. So a far cry from what you're looking at here in my camera. Anyway, we'll hit you up when we get closer to Houston. There we go, Bayou Rifle Club.
What's up?
I didn't get my butt kicked enough last year. We came back for more punishment. We got Jason,
How's it going? John.
famous Mr. Doug Skogman of the Win Zero product.
Yes.
Brian.
John.
Now, for those that watched my video last year, you might remember this was a just gravelly mess in here. This is amazing. Like that is an amazing concrete pad here. And there it is. So today's team day. Let's get it done. Team day was fun yesterday. We came in second. It was a pretty close fight. Pretty challenging, but nothing like the wind we're gonna have today. So you can already see out here when flags are moving. They're expecting anywhere from 15 to 30 mile an hour winds throughout the day today. So I don't know, it's gonna be fun. I love shooting in big wind. It's always exciting. We've got everybody down here checking in. You can see over here, this is the weigh-in table. So everybody has to be under their desired weight for their class. Open's gonna be 22, TR is gonna be 18.2. And we come walking from way over there. There's a field. It's about 6 inches deep in water right now. And somebody wore the wrong shoes for that. So we got about an hour till we start firing. I'm gonna be on relay 4, which means I'm gonna be in the pits first. But you can see people getting set up here. And we're gonna have some fun today.
All right, at this point then, I open the floor for nominations. I second it. Eric Cortina, would you accept the position if so elected? Thank you. Any other nominations? Any other nominations? Seeing none by acclamation, but let's take a vote anyway. All in favor of Eric Cortina replacing me as the high power long range and mid range director for the TSRA signify by raising your hand and saying aye, and thank you very much.
Aye.
Thank you, Eric.
This was the first relay, and honestly, it's 5 points, and I was absolutely ecstatic. If you look at my siders getting started, I mean, it was honestly pretty rough. There's a couple more siders on the backside. You can kind of see the impression here. And ultimately, I think, I don't know, I was struggling a little bit to get started, but I think I took like 15 siders or something. Anyway, once I jumped in, I was doing great. And I sort of had a plan for the day. And keep in mind, this is the day where, even on this first relay, it was probably blowing a solid 10 to 15 miles an hour with some heavier gusts. And more than anything, I wanted to stop, and sometimes stop for no good reason, because it's honestly one of my biggest weaknesses. And in big wind, I tend to really like shooting big wind because I traditionally have done very well just running, meaning I just chase it out in the wind, and I traditionally have pretty good luck. I can run really fast. I've got pretty good skills when it comes to that. It's a tool that I'm very comfortable using. Repeated stopping and starting is not a tool that I have heavily developed, and this seemed like a great opportunity. I knew I did not have an A plus gun with me. Um, you always want to go into it winning, but it just wasn't shooting as tight as I knew it needed to. And on top of that, I just wanted to do something different. Definition insanity, right? Different, expecting a different result, doing the same thing. So my goal with this was, can I jump out in big wind and can I jump back in? So I told myself, if I shoot a 9, jump out. If I shoot more than 3 or 4 shots, jump out, even if they were still 10s or X's. And I know that seems a little like insanity, but I did. And so you can see here, I was really happy with myself. So I shot a few, I stopped, and then I jumped in with a 9. Or no, I'm sorry. I hit a 9, I stopped, and then jumped in with a 10, shot a few more. I probably should have stopped because, I kept telling myself, try not to shoot more than 3 or 4 shots. I did ultimately shoot this 9. I stopped, jumped in with an X, and it wasn't like right away. I waited a minute, looked at the conditions, waited for something to come back, felt really good. Jumped out on this 9, and then jumped back in with a 9, which is fine. In any big wind condition, especially big wind, the ability to come back in a 9 is a lifesaver. So the fact that I came in a 9, I'm super happy. And then shot some more, jumped out on the 9, came back in with 10-10. So I jumped in and out, whatever it was, 3 or 4 times, and just felt really, really good. I felt like I was in control. It took me completely out of my normal rhythm. In terms of just, load and go kind of situation. And it really gave me a lot of confidence. So I told myself, let's just do this the whole day. I got nothing to lose really at this point. Here is the second match of the day. Again, the wind got quite a bit stronger. It probably increased another 5 miles an hour on average. And boards were rattling. A lot of stuff was moving down there. And, I kind of had the same approach. Shoot, if I did it 9 out, then try to stop on my own. In most cases, I 9'd out on this one, and you can kind of see it goes in a pattern. So I dropped this, I jump back in, I dropped this one, jump back in with a 9, shot a 9, jump back in with a 10. And then this last one, if I remember right, I shot that 9 and I just waited to shoot the last 2, and then I jumped back in with the X and the 10. So even though I dropped 6 points in that kind of wind, it's more like it was actually really good. I was only down 9 points at that point and felt really great about it considering the wind. A lot of people were struggling in the wind. So it was like I was learning something. I was kind of pushing my mental boundaries with what I was comfortable with. and still holding my own pretty darn good. So this was really good for me. All right, so here's what we got going on. It is just ripping down here. We actually have to put boards under the carriers just to keep them from falling down when shooters are done. Part of this roof has been blowing up a little bit. And I mean, it's just moving out here. Looking at the scorecard, you can say, if nothing else on this day, I was very consistent. I had a 195, a 194, shot another 194, relatively similar X count. So all in all, using what is probably one of my weaker tools in my toolbox, I was able to stay very consistent. I probably would have been a little more worried if I'd had like a 199 and then a 190 and then, a 194 or something like that, where it was very up and down. But the fact that I was able to stay consistent, jump in and out as I needed across these nines, it just gave me a really good, confident feeling that tool is something I can trust if I need to fall back on it. Or if the conditions kind of require me to do it, that kind of thing. So, end of the day, I don't know, whatever that ends up being. So, what was I down? I was down 5, then 6, so that's 11. I guess my math was wrong on the last slide. So 11 and then 6, so 17 down. So I was 17 down at the end of the day. That was still like top half of the first page somewhere, and I was feeling really good about it. And again, to be able to walk away from those conditions, extreme winds, switching, full value to quarter winds, making calls, not being perfect, but still being very confident in what I was doing. This was a huge win for me on this day. I kind of didn't care where I sat at that point. I knew there were a lot of people that, had shot a lot better, so that's fine. But I had walked away feeling like I had proven something to myself that I can be something more than a one-trick pony, which, to be honest, that's kind of what I am in general, barring certain circumstances. So this is a huge improvement day for me. So this is how bad the wind was today. There's the range. There's leaving the range. Eric and I got to squeeze through here now. All right, well, we better get through before they drag this thing out of here. We got it. We got it.
All right.
That's crazy.
Let's go.
Well, it wasn't blocking our way, but now they've pulled it in front. So let me talk about what happened when I got home after the first day. So first day, I felt like I shot really great. Really good horizontal. I lost some verticals. I kind of saw a lot of people losing verticals, and as happens at matches, sometimes you hear people say, "Oh, like everybody was losing vertical," and I do believe, just based on what I saw, there was some kind of range vertical out there. There'd be times where 2 or 3 targets would go down, they'd all come up, and everybody would be down to the right. So, yes, it's something you can say like, "Hey, there's some range vertical," and I felt like the gun was shooting pretty good. But I go home. We're back at the house. Everybody's cleaning their guns. I get done cleaning my gun, and I go to lift it up off the cradle. And I don't know how to explain this if you don't know this experience, but picture like the threads of the barrel, and you can feel just like a shift in the metal. It's like a clunk, like it's just doing that. And I knew exactly what it was at that point. I thought, oh crap. And so I go and grab my barrel, and I literally spun it like by hand. And I'm just sitting there thinking, like, how did this happen? And, I take care. I torque my guns. I use a torque wrench. I clean my shoulders off. I try to do everything right. And, and this happens sometimes. I can't tell you why. But, sometimes people have barrels come loose, and it shouldn't happen. Like, I'm not trying to make excuses, because it should never happen if you're doing things right. So I was sitting there trying to reflect on what might have happened. Well, one, I probably got lazy. I'm pretty sure I torqued it before we left. There's every chance that, looking back, maybe I didn't. Typically before I leave for a match, I throw it in my vise, I hit it. I'll loosen it up and I'll retorque it. things happen. You know, did something happen in flight that I didn't pay attention to, and I didn't check my barrel when I got there? And these are all part of like mental checklists that I try to make. And you know, every time something happens, you try to add another thing to your punch list. So I threw it back in my bag. You know, I kind of, you know, I grabbed it between my legs and I torqued it as hard as I could, and I threw it back in my bag, and I waited like half an hour, and then I finally kind of said, well, you know, I need to get a second opinion on this. So I was in a house with Eric and a couple other, you know, really good shooters, and I said, all right, guys, I know I'm going to take hell for this, but here's what happened, and I spelled it out. And once they were done laughing a little, um, you know, Eric looked at it, and you know, it's somehow something got on the face of my action, like a little bit of grease, which then gets on the shoulder. It doesn't make solid contact, and it causes it to release. Now, whether that's something that worked in there, like a penetrating oil that I had used, or I don't know at this point. I'm going to have to reevaluate kind of that part of the process. And it's not like this happens all the time. So I don't know why it happened. But, you know, we cleaned the whole action off. We got alcohol out. We cleaned off the shoulder of the barrel. We cleaned off the face of the action. You know, Eric snapped it back on. We couldn't get it off by hand. And, you know, it causes you to kind of reflect on the day that you just shot. And I had shot team with that gun also. And I sat there thinking, well, you know, on one hand, you feel like an idiot, right? Like I'm supposed to be, you know, at the top of my game and compete with the top shooters out there. And it's really easy to kick yourself when stupid stuff like this happens, because you think, well, this doesn't happen to anybody else. Like I'm the only idiot out there. But the truth is, it does happen to other people, whether they talk about it or not. And things happen, things get weird. I've had, you know, high level shooters where a scope mount's, you know, gotten knocked and loose. I don't know about barrels, but you know, bedding cracks, like things happen, and it may not always be in your immediate thought process to take a look before a big match. And so this has sort of caused me to reevaluate my process with a gun when I get to, both before I leave, obviously, but then when I get to a match, pulling the gun apart, you know, getting it out of the action, making sure I retorque all the screws, make sure I check the barrel. I always check my scope because it comes off and it goes back on. I don't worry about it. I usually will hit my receiver screws one time with my torque wrench just to make sure. But I honestly don't grab my barrel all that often, because it's usually just not an issue. So, you know, this is just my way of saying, like, if something happens to you, just make a note, correct it so it doesn't happen again, but understand you're not alone out there with this kind of stuff. If there's people out there that are making you feel like everything's perfect, it's not. You know, weird stuff just happens to people. Unfortunately, it seems to happen, you know, when it's least convenient, as is tradition. But anyway, I got it fixed, went into the next day, and you know, that's all I can do. So there you go. Here we go. Much different day than yesterday. Tim Vaught.
I shot so bad, Eric gave me some of his prescriptions.
Brandon, how you doing this morning?
Better this morning. I got my butt whooped yesterday, but that's just part of it.
And of course, Mr. Eric Cortina.
All good, man. Just another day.
All right, yeah, much different day. Blue skies, flags are down.
Stand by for colors.
David Joe side.
And here we have the first target from Sunday morning. Now the conditions were much, much more mild. Not much wind. It was moving around a little bit. But for whatever reason, there were a number of people that struggled with this particular relay. And I just can't put my finger on it other than to say, I think I let my guard down, me personally. I went into the second day saying, okay, yesterday was a really great success. I'm higher up on the leaderboard than I honestly thought after the wind and everything. I felt really good about where I was. And I looked at this and I just thought I really let myself down. I didn't follow my plan. When I walked away from the 3 relays yesterday, every time I got up, I said, I shot great. Like, I didn't care about the score because I had stuck to my plan. I had a plan. I knew what I wanted to do, and I did it. And on this particular target, I reverted back to some bad habits. I paid less attention to, you lull yourself into a sense of, well, it's not that windy and I could just chase this one down and I shouldn't have to move that much. And, 3 points doesn't seem like a lot. And like I said, there was more people than I expected that were higher on the leaderboard that dropped a few points. There was also obviously some cleans on this particular relay, but I didn't really care so much about the score. Like, I didn't care that it was 3 points. I was more just mad at myself that I walked away having not followed my plan. The previous day, I had told myself, look, jump in, jump out if you have a problem. And so I just sort of let myself down on this one. And I tried to say, okay, like, I'm not going to let it bother me. But I think it just kind of shows that even in conditions where some of my other habits might have been a fallback, I really have to be more conscious of that. So anyway, we headed to the pits after this. We were in the pits for like 2.5 hours. Then we come up and shoot the last relay. And I'll be honest, this is absolutely not the way I wanted to end my match. I was probably a little fatigued. I'll be honest, I was irritated at something that happened when I was in the pits that I probably shouldn't have let get to me. I was just sort of all over the place mentally when I got down on this. And then I started shooting, and like a lot of that kind of went out the window. Like, I kind of was like, okay, let me just do my thing. And you can see I started off just fine, XX 10, XX, and then I dropped a 9, and almost all of these, just so you know, were upwind. I was making really tight calls upwind where I would go a little extra, and I was just leaking them out. In fact, most of these 9s were just outside the 10 ring, and so like I kept saying, okay, like, and that's usually not a problem I have. I do tend to be a downwind leaker more than an upwind leaker, and in this particular case, I kept telling myself, go stronger, and it kept costing me. And then I got down into these 9s, and the one thing I didn't do, and again, this is why I walked away just saying I shot really bad no matter what the score is that I didn't honor my system. And I had told myself, if I shoot a couple 9s in a row, no matter what's going on, you need to stop. And I didn't do it. I don't know, I just blanked, and I just kept shooting, and I kept losing shots. And then I, caught the last 2. So, I mean, that's great to finish on 10s versus 9s. But the bottom line is that this day was a complete opposite of the other day, in the sense that Saturday I went in with a plan. I told myself I'd stick to it. I stuck to it, and I walked away feeling like I shot great, and I didn't care about the score. On Sunday here, I didn't follow my plan. I did care about my scores, and I walked away feeling like I shot really crappy. And, it's a tough way to end. And again, I'm not perfect, and I make mistakes. And, I think you all know that when it comes to shooting, the mental game is 100% my weakest attribute here. And it's something that I have continuously had to work on, and obviously still need to do considerable work on. So I think what I'm going to do is focus on Saturday, which was a very positive for me. I'm going to mentally focus on the successes that I had Saturday. I'm going to focus on the tool that I was able to develop Saturday, knowing that I can bring that out at another big match and use it successfully. And I am going to simply remember Sunday as the day that I didn't follow my rules or my plan, and learn from that regardless of what the score was. So that's how I walked away from this. I don't know if that helps anybody out there. If you have similar problems, both good and bad, would love to hear it in the comments. I think we can all agree that the mental game is definitely the hardest, and it's really easy to let yourself down when you're shooting because misses add up. I don't care if you're shooting PRS or bench rest or F class. And so the misses don't hurt as much when you are adhering to your game plan. But when you blow your game plan and you're dropping points, I think it's easy to look and say, okay, like this is a really good learning moment. So I hope that helps. I appreciate you guys watching. And here comes the final awards.
Well, now that the match is over, here's what everybody's waiting for: the random drawing for free stuff. There's stocks, there's a Seb Neo, a Win Zero, Bartland, Vixen Andy, Vitavori, all kinds of stuff, Krieger barrels. And, they do a ton of work reaching out to sponsors, and the sponsors really step up for this match. So lots of great stuff for everybody.
First place?
I don't think he's here.
We'll still announce it.
Yeah, it's Peter Johns.
Peter Johns.
PJ.
Oh no, they got third and yeah.
Well done.
They got third.
Okay, second.
This one got third over.
Yeah, third, okay.
Yes, sir. First
Yeah,
match.
I guess so. We'll deserve it.
Jason
Jason.
Symes?
Jason.
Hey, Jason.
Come back today. You got real good today.
Good. Congratulations.
Third is Damon.
Go, Jason. Go, Damon.
With a 988.35.
Wow, well done.
And fourth is William. Emoji.
Go, Bill.
Thank you. Congratulations. Good job, Bill. Thank you. Fourth? No, this says fifth
No,
one.
he was fourth.
He was fourth. Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
Fifth. Neil Woody.
Make sure, because we think, never mind.
985.42.
Good show.
Yeah, good shit.
Congratulations. Good job, Neil.
Sixth place
Six.
is Todd Hendricks. 984.42.
Go, Todd.
Perfect. Congratulations.
And the last one here,
Here's seventh.
It's going to be Gwen Basala at 984.40.
There's Gwen.
Got it? Okay. You're welcome.
Okay, now.